Session number 3, the psychological core of the customer, talking about motivation, ability, and opportunity. When we talk about consumers' motivation, we have to understand the following definition. Consumers' motivation means the needs, wants, drives, and desires of an individual that lead him or her toward the purchase of products or services. The motivation may be physiologically, psychologically, or environmentally driven. When we talk about consumers' motivation, we have to understand how the consumer processes information and makes decisions. When consumers are highly motivated to achieve a goal, they are more likely to pay careful attention to it. Think about it, attempt to understand or comprehend information, present about it, evaluate the information critically, and try to remember it for later use. When consumers are low and motivated, however, they devote little effort to processing information and making decisions. A final outcome of motivation is that evokes a psychological state in consumers called involvement. Motivation can create involvement. Involvement means the psychological experience of the motivated consumer. It includes psychological states such as interest, excitement, anxiety, passion, and engagement. We actually understand 4 kinds of involvement. First, the enduring, situational, cognitive, and affective involvement. When we talk about the enduring involvement, it exists when we show interest in an offering or activity over a long time of period. Most consumers exhibit enduring involvement for relatively few offerings of activities. An example herefore would be a car enthusiast goes to a car show, reads magazines, and visits dealerships regularly. The second involvement is the situational involvement. It's temporary interest in an offering or activity often caused by situational circumstances. An example herefore would be consumers who exhibit no enduring behavior in cars may be involved in the car buying process when they are in the market for a new car. After the car is purchased, the involvement declines drastically. The third involvement is the so-called cognitive involvement. It's the interest in thinking about and processing information related to one's goal. The goal therefore includes learning about the offering. An example herefore would be a baseball enthusiast who is interested in learning all about his or her idol. Last but not least, we have the affective involvement. This is the interest in expanding emotional energy and heightened feelings regarding an offering or activity. The example herefore would be crying when John Lennon, Diana, or Michael Jackson died. What affects motivation? Motivation is actually influenced by the extent to which the ad, brand, product category, or other characteristics is personally relevant to the consumer. Consumers see sometimes as personally relevant and important when it is consistent with their values, goals, and needs, when it's risky, or moderately inconsistent with their prior attitudes. What affects motivation also? For instance, self-concept, meaning the personal relevance. When we talk about the personal relevance, we have to understand what is self-concept. The self-concept is the view of yourself who actually defines who we are and what actually guides our behavior. Personality is a dynamic and organized set of characteristics processed by a person that uniquely influences his or her cognitions, motivations, and behaviors in various situations. Therefore, when we talk about personal relevance, it's about what is important for me as being a consumer. What affects motivation? Values, goals, and needs. When we think about needs, we have to understand different types of needs. Please have a closer look to the following slide. How do I feel about achieving or not achieving my goal? There are different characteristics of needs. Needs can be dynamic. Needs can exist in a hierarchy. Think about the pyramid of Maslow. Needs can be internally or externally aroused, meaning smelling food can make you hungry, or you could be hungry without smelling food. Needs can conflict. A given behavior or outcome can be seen as both desirable and undesirable if it satisfies some needs but fails to satisfy others. The result is known as the approach avoidance conflict. The example herefore would be, a teenager may be faced with smoking cigarettes. The teen might think they are cool for smoking, consist with a need for belonging, but known that smoking is bad for health, consistent with a need for safety. When we talk about the different approach conflicts, we also have the approach conflict, which actually occurs when someone must choose between two or more equally desirable options that fulfill different needs. Example, you are invited to a career fair consistent with achievement needs and to a baseball game with friends consistent with need for belonging on the same day. The avoidance conflict is a conflict that occurs when the consumer must choose between two equally undesirable options. An example herefore would be going home after a late meeting alone, which actually means the need for safety, or waiting an hour for a friend to drive you home, which actually is the need for affiliation. Neither option would be desirable. When we think about needs, we have to understand the two main theories of needs. Abraham Maslow, who actually invented the pyramid of needs. To understand humans, you must understand their highest aspiration. David Clarence McClelland, who also actually did a theory about needs, said that there are needs for achievement, power, and affiliation. As many of you already heard about the Maslow's pyramid, I would more go into detail with the David Clarence McClelland, need for achievement, power, and affiliation. David McClelland's theory of needs refers to an individual's desire for significant accomplishment, mastering of skills, control, or higher standards. He actually divides needs in three different kinds: need for achievement, need for authority and power, and need for affiliation. The need for achievement is a manifest need that concerns individuals' issues of excellence, competition, challenging goals, persistence, and overcoming difficulties. The second need is the need for power. It's a manifest need that concerns an individual's need to make an impact on others, influence others, change people or events, and make a difference in life. Need for affiliation is a need that concerns an individual's need to establish and maintain warm, close, intimate relationships with other people. After talking about the personal relevance, what actually is important to me, values, goals, and needs, there is a third factor which actually influences motivation, the so-called perceived risk. When we talk about the perceived risk, it's the extent to which the customer is uncertain about the consequences of an action, such as buying, using, or disposing of an offering. If negative outcomes are likely or positive outcomes are unlikely, then they perceive risk is high. Perceived risk can be associated with any offering, but is higher when little information is available about the offering is new, the offering has a high price, the offering is technologically complex, there are fairly substantial quality difference between brands, so the customer might make an inferior choice, the consumer has little confidence or experience in evaluating the offering, and last but not least, perceived risk can be associated when the opinion of others are important and the consumer is likely to be judged by acquisition, usage, or disposition decisions. We actually understand different types of perceived risk: performance risk, financial risk, physical or safety risk, social risk, psychological risk, and the time risk. Please have a closer look to the different types of risk and read what we do understand. The next slide shows you an example about shopping online and the perceived risk consumers can have. When we talk about consumers' ability, we have to understand that this is next to motivation also something which influences consumer behavior. Motivation may not result in action unless a consumer has the ability actually to process information, make decisions, or engage in behaviors. Therefore, ability is defined as the extent to which consumers have the necessary resource to make outcome happen. Knowledge and experience, for instance, cognitive style, intelligent education, age, and money. When we talk about the consumer's ability, we first of all have to think about his product knowledge and experience. For instance, experts and novices process similar amounts of information, but in different ways. Experts process information in terms of attributes. What a product has, such a Pentium chip, whereas novices process information in terms of benefits. What a product can do for the customer, which means enhance efficiency. Consumers also differ in cognitive style, or the preference for ways information should be presented. Cognitive complexity is the extent to which consumers prefer information to be presented in a simple or complex manner. Consumer ability also means intelligence, education, and age, which also have an influence on the ability to process information. More intelligent customers and more educated consumers can process more complex information. Age is also a factor. Older children, for instance, are more sensitive to the benefits of searching for information, outweigh the costs, while younger children don't have this ability. Older individuals have a decline in cognitive ability and reduced ability to process information. Another ability which actually influences consumers' ability is the money, or the lack of money, created financial constraints to consumers who might otherwise have the motivation to engage in a behavior that involves acquisition. Next to motivation and ability, another factor who actually influences the psychological core of the customer is the opportunity. The final factor, which actually influences motivation and ability, results in consumers' opportunity. Even when motivation is high, we may not take action because of lack of time, distractions, and other factors that impede our ability to act. One of the factors which are actually influencing our opportunity to act is time. Consumers under time constraints will make decisions with limited information processing and/or put more weight on negative information and are quicker to reject brands because of negative features. Distraction, for instance, refers to any aspect of a situation that diverts consumers' attention. Example, talking to someone while they are viewing an ad on TV. Another factor which actually influences the opportunity of a consumer is the amount of information that actually the consumer has processed. It can affect a consumer's opportunity to process a message. Another factor actually influencing also consumers' opportunity is the complexity of information. As the information becomes more complex, our opportunity to process decreases. Information can be complex if the consumer has to sort through huge volume of it. Repetition of information enhances your ability to perceive it. If you're repeatedly exposed to information, you process it more easily because you have more chances to think about it, scrutinize, and remember it. If you read the Starbucks case, please think about the following. When we take Starbucks as a brand, it is important to understand the difference between what your brand provides to customers in terms of logical, functional benefits and what it provides in terms of intangible, emotional benefits. Consider Starbucks brand as being functional, benefit as being a caffeinated refreshment, and its emotional benefit, which actually indulges and doing something good to the customer. I would like that you read now carefully the Starbucks Coffee Company case. Your task will be to answer the following question. Our main question is to understand what motivates a customer to actually go to Starbucks. If you answer the two questions, what are the communicated values of customer? And how do Starbucks values create and influence customer needs? We will better understand what actually motivates a consumer to go to Starbucks. Consumer surveys have revealed that many people have developed a strong emotional attachment to Starbucks. For these people, Starbucks has become not just a brick and mortar local, but a vital part of their life. Starbucks isn't just a place where people buy coffee. It has become a mean much more to its patrons. Marketing companies and authors selling the idea of emotional branding often compare this kind of brand loyalty to one of spiritual or social need. In the next slides, I will show you the excursus of emotional branding. Please have a closer look and read the slides carefully.